Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking one of the most misunderstood and, honestly, intensely debated behaviors in modern relationships. We're talking about the archetype of the silent partner after a breakup. You know, when a relationship shatters, human nature usually pushes us toward these big, dramatic reactions, right? We want closure, we want to argue, or maybe we just want to prove to the world that we are doing perfectly fine. But then, there's the silent partner. This is the person who simply vanishes. So we're going to break down the profound psychology behind this absolute stillness using some fascinating source material we've gathered, and really decode what's actually happening when all the noise just stops. It's a question that haunts so many people who've ended up on the other side of it. Have you ever wondered why some people cut all contact and just disappear into complete, unbroken silence after a relationship ends? I mean, they never post updates to prove they're happy, they never seek revenge, they never look back, and they absolutely never reach out for that famed closure. For the person experiencing this sudden absence, it can feel like a really painful mystery. Complete radio silence can feel like an aggressive act, right? Like a punishment, or maybe a sign that the whole relationship just meant nothing at all. But as we look at the psychological data, a very, very different picture emerges. Society's myth tells us that going completely silent is just a symptom of extreme bitterness, petty anger, or maybe even calculated manipulation. We naturally assume the silent partner is just stewing in resentment. But the reality, complete silence is rarely about anger at all. Instead, it's a highly effective, absolutely vital psychological tool used for survival and resetting. It's not an attack on the former partner, it's an intense, inward-focused process of self-preservation. Okay, let's dive right into Section 1, the illusion of coldness. This is really about an act of self-respect, showing us that disappearing isn't an act of heartlessness, it's a firm boundary. Moving on to Section 2, the neuroscience of silence. Let's talk about biological heartbreak. Now, what's really interesting here is that to truly understand why this boundary is so necessary, we have to look past our emotions and actually understand the biological mechanics of heartbreak. It's wild, but the human brain literally treats a romantic breakup like a severe dopamine dependency withdrawal. All those neurochemicals that were firing when you were with that person, suddenly they're just cut off. So think of the common no contact rule through the objective lens of neuroscience. A neural reset is that vital withdrawal period required to physically rewire the brain. When a silent partner cuts contact, they're enduring the absolute hardest part of withdrawal to reset their dopamine pathways. Literally, every time you send that desperate, just checking in text at 2 a.m., you're feeding that dependency loop with a tiny hit of dopamine, effectively resetting your whole healing process back to zero. Let's walk through the literal, biological steps of private emotional recovery. Step 1. Withdraw attention entirely, because where attention goes, neural energy flows. Step 2, halt the dopamine hits. That means no pictures, no messages, and definitely no mutual friends passing along updates. And finally, step 3, reset the neural pathways. By enduring the silence, the brain eventually learns to stop anticipating the reward of the ex-partner, and that dependency loop finally breaks. So you see, silence isn't just a stubborn attitude, it's the actual physical mechanism that facilitates this biological reset. This brings us to Section 3, dignity and the controllable. It's all about refusing to beg. Once that dependency loop is broken, clarity emerges. And this clarity brings us to a fundamental philosophy. Genuine connection must be mutual and freely given. Think about it. If you have to convince someone to stay, if you have to negotiate for their affection or strategize just to get their attention, then what you're receiving is not genuine connection. The silent partner internalizes this principle of non-coercion. They recognize that true, authentic affection simply cannot be forced or manipulated. If it's not freely given, well, it holds absolutely no real value. So the crucial point is that letting someone walk away without a fight or without some dramatic plea is actually the ultimate act of reclaiming power over what you can actually control. You withdraw your attention completely. You let the partner leave freely, deeply respecting their autonomy, and you focus 100% of your energy on controlling only your own actions. Because let's face it, you cannot control if someone wants to leave, but you have absolute total control over whether you're going to chase them. And the silent partner, they choose not to chase. Which perfectly sets up Section 4, escaping the ego trap. Let's look at these cognitive illusions. Choosing not to chase is incredibly difficult, mostly because of a powerful cognitive illusion that frequently derails post-breakup recovery. When a relationship ends, it is so easy to fall into the ego trap. You know, that overwhelming compulsion to chase an emotionally unavailable person just to soothe your wounded pride or prove your worth. But understanding this difference is absolutely crucial, because true connection is freely given mutual love. The silent partner realizes that engaging in all that post-breakup drama, trying to prove a point or fighting for the last word, it's really just feeding the ego, not fighting for a real connection. Let's move to our final phase, Section 5, Solitude as Complete Recovery. This is about complete independence. This brings us to a really fascinating concept, cognitive decompression. This is that vital period of quiet and solitude required to process complex emotions and develop true self-sufficiency. See, when you're constantly communicating with an ex, your identity remains completely entangled with theirs. Cognitive decompression requires solitude so you can actually figure out who you are without their input. This silence essentially builds a protective wall around a fragile, newly developing identity, keeping it entirely safe from outside judgment or the confusing influence of a former partner. And this is the ultimate goal of the silent partner, the secret reset. It's the profound act of building an identity completely independent of the past and doing it entirely in private. This transformation happens away from the watchful eyes of an ex, entirely off of social media feeds, and far away from public opinion. The silent partner doesn't need an audience for their growth. They're rebuilding their foundation from the ground up, ensuring that their new sense of self relies on absolutely no one but themselves. Which leaves us with this final, genuinely empowering thought to wrap up our explainer. If you're experiencing this kind of silence, whether you're the one enforcing it to heal or you're on the receiving end of a partner who's disappeared, you have to shift your perspective. Don't view the silence as a void or as some sort of victimization. View it as a space of ultimate potential and self-mastery. The noise of the past has been cleared away. So the only question that truly matters now is, in the silence, who are you becoming? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope it's given you a powerful new lens on the psychology of silence.